This is a world gone mad. This is a world gone mad. Mad, 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 mad.
This is A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolfe. Welcome to the Friday edition. The part of the week where later in my podcast I share with you the stories that make you pause mid-coffee and say, seriously, Jeff? Yes, seriously, Wolfpack listeners. It gets crazier and crazier even away from the mainstream news. The segment later on is called News from the Edge of Sanity. I try to bring you a little laughter before you head into your weekend. But before I get to that, let's talk about the real news stories from the last 48 hours, which sometimes rival the bizarre ones. Okay, here we go. The Pentagon is ready to go, but apparently it needs emotional permission first. The Pentagon has cleared the way to send Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, long-range weapons that could finally reach deep inside Russia. Everybody's loaded, fueled, and ready. And now we wait for Donald Trump's next mood swing. That's where we are. The fate of a war, the direction of world power, the defense of a country under attack, all hanging on whether one man wakes up cranky or decides it's golf day. 4 reversals in Trump's policy. 4. You know what else changes its mind 4 times a day? A child trying to pick lunch. This is the United States military sitting there like a waiter holding a tray of Tomahawks saying, Mr. President, will you be having World War III tonight? Or would you like us to send that back to the kitchen again? We've turned global strategy into emotional hostage negotiation. It's not being a commander-in-chief. It's mood management with nukes in the background. The people at the Pentagon have trained, planned, and built entire logistics chains, and now they're basically sitting in the world's most expensive waiting room, flipping through old magazines until Donald decides how he feels about Putin today. Either help Ukraine or don't. Stop toying with a country that's being bombed to rubble while we treat the Oval Office like a mood ring. And you, Donald, spend all your energies on what freaking drapes and carpeting work best in your new throne room in the East Wing. People are dying while we test drive one man's emotions. Donald, take a stand against Putin or don't, but stop confusing indecision with genius. What are you scared of, Donald? Losing followers? You don't play chicken with a dictator who actually enjoys chicken. So yes, the Pentagon's cleared for launch. Tomahawk missiles, yes or no. Wake up, Donnie boy. Show some leadership. Make the hard and right decisions. Show a backbone. Oh, who the hell am I kidding myself? Trump's never shown that. Can you imagine Donald with a backbone? His height would shoot up to 6'6" instead of 5'9", but he'd still look like an orange dumpling. Remember the movie Moonstruck? When Cher in it said, snap out of it. While Washington keeps playing shutdown roulette, 40+ million Americans are about to find out their grocery money just ran out. SNAP benefits gone. Poof! And what's Congress doing while families panic? They left town for the weekend, packed up, went home, said they'll get back to it Monday. Because nothing says public service like skipping town while people can't buy food. We're not talking about some fringe program. We're talking about people trying to buy milk and bread while Congress argues over whose ego gets fed first. You ever notice how this government never misses a paycheck for themselves? They'll shut down the country, but not their own direct deposit. Senators still get paid. Lobbyists still get paid. Contractors still get paid. But the single mom in Kansas, she's supposed to tell her kids, sorry, sweethearts, Washington's having another tantrum, so no dinner tonight. They could write blank checks for defense, but the pantry's closed. We're helping Argentina's economy, rebuilding infrastructure overseas, shipping billions in weapons. And back home, people are standing in line wondering if their EBT card still works. And here's the part that pisses me off. They keep calling it temporary disruption. Temporary? Tell that to someone who has to decide whether to pay rent or buy food. Tell that to the seniors who can't stretch a dollar because everything in the store costs more than it did last week. We could fund billions and find the money for weapons that haven't been even fired yet. But somehow, breakfast is a budget buster. You want to help families? Try funding the fridge instead of the fighter jet. Every time there's a shutdown, they tell us to stay calm, it'll be fine. It'll always end soon. Right. It ends when the Republicans finally pull their heads out of their asses and actually do something for the people of this country instead of pretending they are. That's when negotiations magically speed up. Maybe if SNAP benefits covered steak dinners at Capitol Hill restaurants, this thing would have been fixed yesterday. But here we are, America, land of the free lunch for everyone, except the people who actually need one. Let me welcome you all back to the atomic age. So apparently the United States is dusting off the nukes again. We've decided the best way to calm a tense world is to start testing the things that can end it. Where's our old school desk? Hide under it, kiss your ass goodbye. Brilliant. They call it scientific verification. Of what? That we could still blow up a desert? That gravity still works? We already ran that experiment in the 50s. It worked. The planet's still spinning somehow. This is like a guy who's been sober for 70 years suddenly saying, you know what? I think I can handle just one more drink. No, you can't. You woke up in a mushroom cloud last time. We can't keep bridges standing, but we can make sure our warheads age gracefully. Priorities. Schools are crumbling. Hospitals are broke. The water's poisoned in half the country, but sure, let's test nuclear weapons again. Because apparently we need reassurance that the apocalypse still functions. Imagine being a scientist on that project. What are you working on, Bob? Oh, I'm modernizing the end of civilization. How's your day, Ted? The timing is perfect, too. The same week we can't fund food programs, can't pay federal workers, can't pass a budget. Someone in a suit said, you know what this country needs? A little radioactive nostalgia. We're the only empire in history that's trying to recreate its own extinction event for quality control. And the justification? We need to make sure our deterrent still works. Really? I personally think the deterrent is fine. Everyone pretty well is deterred. Nobody's saying, you know, I'd feel safer if the Americans started detonating things again. If you're wondering how the empire ends, it's probably somewhere between testing a 1950s warhead and telling the poor there's no funding for lunch. We've come full circle, everyone, from duck and cover to shrug and scroll. Welcome back to the atomic age. Hope you brought sunscreen with an SPF of 10,000. Speaking of insanity, let's get to the stories that prove the planet's now officially in improv mode. It's that time on Friday, news from the edge of sanity, where I bring you the weird, offbeat news stories that you just roll your eyes on. First, I bring you the police officer in court. In Detroit, a police officer appeared at an online virtual court hearing wearing his uniform shirt, badge, and nameplate. Everything looked official until the judge asked a simple question of the officer that changed the tone of the entire court hearing. "Officer Jackson," the judge said, "do you have pants on?" The officer looked down, paused, said to the judge through his camera, "No, sir." And there it was. We've all heard of legal briefs in a courtroom trial, but this was ridiculous. That's when the hearing stopped being about law and order and became the world's most awkward Zoom meeting. Apparently, the officer thought the camera would only show his upper half, like every other work from home disaster that's happened since 2020. The problem here is that this is a cop testifying in a courtroom proceeding online, virtually, on camera, live. There's a moment of silence. You can almost hear the prosecutor wondering if this counts as contempt of court or fashion. The judge, to his credit, handled it like a pro. He sighed, he shook his head on camera and said, "Officer Jackson, please put some pants on." And that was that. Case adjourned. No one knows if the officer faced any disciplinary action, but somewhere in Detroit, there's a lawyer still trying to figure out how to cite wardrobe malfunction in legal precedent. It's the perfect metaphor for the times we're living in. Authority figures from the waist up, chaos from the waist down. So the next time you hear about police transparency, maybe this isn't what they meant. Okay, I offer you Wolfpack listeners the mayor of Fairhaven, Vermont. Fairhaven, Vermont, quiet little town that takes its local politics seriously. Every year, citizens come together to raise money for parks, playgrounds, and other small projects. It's a small town America at its finest. They even elect an honorary mayor to help lead the effort, a symbol of civic pride. The twist is, every honorary mayor in Fairhaven is an animal. That's right. It started years ago as a lighthearted way to raise money for community projects, and somehow it stuck. Dogs, cats, even a rabbit have held the office of mayor. Democracy on paws and hooves. And this year's winner in Fairhaven? Lincoln, a brown and white goat with more name recognition than most senators. He's charming, photogenic, and reportedly does fewer press conferences than most governors. But even in a town that expects its leaders to occasionally chew on the scenery, no one expected the mayor to end up in an ethics mess. Mayor Lincoln the Goat made headlines after his handlers were accused of dipping into the town's so-called mayoral fund to buy Mayor Lincoln the Goat a kiddie pool, his personal pool, for lounging. That's when the town clerk had to call a press conference and clarify for the media the mayoral fund is symbolic. Lincoln the Goat cannot be impeached. And that's when the story officially crossed from local news to national absurdity. Residents started joking about corruption in the highest pasture. One rival candidate, a dog named Sammy, was seen sniffing around City Hall, possibly looking for votes, possibly looking for lunch. The debate that followed was pure small-town gold. Should the mayor have disclosed his pool plans? Was it a conflict of interest? Should Fairhaven form an ethics committee for farm animals? Local papers had a field day, national outlets picked it up, and the whole country got to enjoy a rare moment where political scandal was cute instead of catastrophic. Meanwhile, Mayor Lincoln, the goat-in-chief, ignored all of it. He's been spotted grazing near Town Hall, unbothered by the controversy, chewing grass, like a veteran politician who knows the storm will pass. And when reporters shouted questions about accountability, the mayor, Lincoln the Goat, did what most elected officials do best. He ignored those questions completely. Maybe that's the real secret of political survival. Don't answer, just keep chewing. And finally, I bring you the Wolfpack listeners. I want to tell you about the Inferno on Main Street. Now, most of you know it was Halloween last night. The costumes, the candy, the chaos. But sometimes a Halloween night becomes something more. Something that crosses from make-believe into the kind of chaos only real life can deliver. It started just after sunset in Fountain Inn, South Carolina. A quiet street, kids in costumes, porch lights flicking on one by one, the usual Hollywood Halloween scene. Then someone looked up and froze. A two-story house at the end of Main Street was engulfed in flames. Smoke poured from the windows, an orange glow burst through the second floor, and tongues of fire climbed the siding like it was seconds from collapse. Neighbors screamed. Cars stopped in the middle of the road. Someone shouted for everyone to get back. Within minutes, 911 lines were lighting up. The Fountain Inn Fire Department raced to the scene, sirens screaming, lights flashing, ready for the full rescue. When the fire department pulled up, they saw what everyone else was watching: a house that was ready to burn to the ground. But something was strange. There was no heat, no smell, no crackle of wood. The firefighters stepped closer, looked again at the house, and then all of them started laughing. The fire was an illusion, a Halloween decoration so realistic it fooled half the town. The homeowners had rigged a lighting system inside the windows with orange projection lamps, hidden fans, and strips of silk fabric that moved like dancing flames. From the street, it looked completely real. For a few moments, everyone just stood there: firefighters, neighbors, parents, and children, holding candy buckets, watching the house glow in the night, realizing they had all been duped by one of the greatest Halloween setups ever pulled off. The firefighters posted a message on their Facebook page the next morning asking residents not to call 911 again. Their post basically said, "We checked, it's fine, the house isn't on fire." The photo spread online within hours. Thousands of people commented that it was one of the most brilliant and terrifying Halloween decorations they had ever seen. The homeowners were thrilled. They just wanted to give their neighbors a show. They never expected to cause a citywide panic. Now, every night, cars line up on Main Street just to watch it. People roll down their windows, stare, and whisper, "It looks so real." And there's a firefighter in Fountain Inn who drives past the same glowing orange house, shakes his head, and mutters, "I've seen some fires in my day, but this one might just burn forever." And that, Wolfpack listeners, is your news from the edge of sanity, where reality has jumped ship without a life preserver. I want to thank everyone who's been sending in messages and emails lately, mostly from the new listeners who have been joining the Wolfpack this month. I did get a couple from my regulars, but for the most part, you've all gotten radio silent. What happened? Did you get abducted? wolfpacktalks@gmail.com. That's the email if any of my regular Wolfpack cares to use it. 833-399-9653 is the 24/7 voicemail box. I'm here. Where are you? This is The World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. Hope you had a great Halloween. Enjoy your weekend. I'll be back Monday. Until then, Wolfpack listeners, remain skeptical, keep focused, but most of all, stay hopeful.